Malefic Rapture is gone, finally! Affliction is turning over a new leaf in Midnight with its rework, where now you have way more options to spend shards and multiple playstyles, with Unstable Affliction coming back as your main resource consumer. This video is sponsored by our Patreons, and we want to thank them for all of the support they've shown us. On top of making it possible for us to do more content like this, we show our appreciation with early access videos, bloopers, and custom-made wallpapers with their favorite transmog. If you enjoy our videos and want to be more involved, consider checking patreon.com/Marcelian&Flame out. But as always, a simple like and subscribe will mean a lot to get our channel and our content to more people out there. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the rest of the video. There are a lot of things that change for Affliction, so I will avoid stuff like your dots get more damage or more crit chance and focus on the big spec-defining changes. The biggest, of course, is Unstable Affliction becoming a shard spender once again and being able to be casted multiple times on the same target or spread out in AoE if that's your jam. And it can be with some capstones, particularly the bottom left side of the tree. Cascading Calamity makes casting Unstable Affliction on a target that already has it give you 5% haste for 15 seconds. A buff you are likely to maintain all of the time due to the frequency of your shard generation, at least at max level with decent gear. The choice node it shares with Soul Miser gives you an AoE alternative where using Unstable Affliction on a target that does not already have it gives you a 25% chance to have it refunded. This mechanic, albeit RNG, will make it possible to spread Unstable Affliction in AoE, although how many shards you want to dedicate to this will depend on your build. More on that in a second. The reason for that is the talent that goes into it, which I believe might be a bit too strong. Cloying Power gives you a 4% buff per target affected by Unstable Affliction. While on raid bosses you will only get the 4%, in AoE this can ramp up to quite a bit of damage depending on how many Unstable Afflictions you can spread. Since you have one more talent that can help with this in Shard Instability. This one gives Shadow Bolt a 20% chance to make your next Unstable Affliction free and instant. I don't think you will cast a lot of Shadow Bolts in AoE outside Nightfall procs, but add this to the 25% chance of free Unstable Afflictions and you can get quite a few of them out. And this playstyle can be augmented even more by the new Dark Harvest and its buffer talent called the Weak. Dark Harvest is now a channel spell that deals damage and heals you for it and has a baller animation as well. Each time it deals damage, it extends your dots by 2 seconds. Obviously, Darkglare also gives you an extension of 8 seconds as well, and all of this will translate in a longer uptime on your Cloying Power buff, making overall dot spreading and dot extension really rewarding, on top of it deals more damage for longer type things. And just to finish the Darkglare topic, Malevolent Visionary buffs it to deal more damage, but it adds an AoE burst proc of damage on all targets with dots up for more upfront burst rather than just ramp damage. Let's move on to the Seed of Corruption now, which is back to being your AoE shard spender by default, especially if you don't go into the Unstable Affliction spread playstyle. Of course, you will need the Sow the Seeds talent that has been pushed down as a capstone with an amp node going into it in Patient 0. This is one of the most satisfying playstyle for Affliction AoE, especially if you are not a fan of the tap target dotting. You will just spam seeds like a crazy person and have everything explode in AoE. Of course, for this you will need shards, and Relinquished has been made mandatory now due to its positioning on the tree and also stronger than on live. With it, I actually couldn't spend all my shards at any point during testing. That was also because I had 17% haste on the leveling gear I carried, so it will be better at max level with proper epics on. Vile Taint is gone and so is Phantom Singularity. These have been considered bloat and now victims of pruning. Although that is 100% true for Phantom Singularity, Vile Taint served a better purpose in spreading Agony. Now that role has been shifted into Shared Agony, where Agony now affects 2 targets per cast, similar to how Balanced Druid uses Moonfire in AoE. You still have to tap target to apply it, but only half as many times as before. This is likely to retain the unique fantasy of spreading your dots in a more involved way rather than with one button. Because of this, dots dropping off won't be a problem anymore in the context of your Vile Taint having 5 to 10 extra seconds to come back and you being left with the choice of not dotting at all or wasting a few globals for a bit of damage to reapply Agony until Vile Taint comes back. Of course, more globals will be spent on Agony now, but you will also put more of them out. It's a bittersweet change, but I'm a fan of tap target dotting since it's a playstyle iconic of dot classes and it keeps their flavor up. Lastly, Nocturnal Yield makes Nightfall also affect Seed of Corruption, making it free and instant. This is cool for obvious reasons, but will have more gameplay implications, more on that in the playstyle section. We have one more new capstone called Malefic Grasp. Nightfall now transforms your Shadow Bolt into Malefic Grasp, a channeled ability that does okay damage, but more importantly, it makes your other dots deal 30% of their normal dot damage for every tick of Malefic Grasp, which I believe is 4 at the moment. Not sure if this works for all targets with dots up or just your main, since testing is a bit hard at the moment, but whatever the case may be, this should only work in single targets, since otherwise it sounds like it might be too strong for AoE. On top of it, becoming the 4th capstone with AoE value. The Apex talent called Shadow of Nathreza are just passive increases to Haunt's effect, making it stronger, proc more damage, and even a visual Dreadlord that does some cool abilities. Since it doesn't impact your gameplay outside giving Haunt more AoE value and forcing you into it, there's not much to say here. The playstyle of the spec hasn't changed at all, outside spending shards, which you can argue it went back to pre-Shadowlands Affliction. You still spread your Agony and Corruption on all targets and use your Haunt on your main target for all its synergies. After that, you will spend your shards on either Unstable Affliction or Seeds, or both. I can actually see a world where you will use Unstable Affliction more aggressively on one target for more priority damage, or blasting pure AoE with Sow the Seeds. The flexibility of having this option gives Affliction way more power, especially in M+, where Warlocks have struggled to find the place. Speaking of, the class elements have changed quite a bit, and the really only significant ones are likely 2 big changes. The less impactful one, but pretty flavorful, is the empowerment of Drain Life that also acts as the old health funnel which was deleted. Infernal Beneficiary makes it heal your primary demon at no health cost on your part, which is better on Modern WoW, since when your demon needs healing, it's likely you might also be taking some damage, or at the risk of taking it. Gorefiend's Avarice makes Drain Life stronger, and Empowered Drain Life aptly empowered it even more, to the point where it can become a legitimate survival spell, albeit at the cost of your overall DPS output. The bigger change is the rework of curses. To reduce complexity, Curse of Weakness is now your baseline curse in one button. You can talent into Curse of Exhaustion and Tongues, and if you do, they become activatable auras. Don't freak out, they're not actual auras, but when you activate one, it turns your Curse of Weakness into that particular curse. This has been done likely to reduce the amount of keybinds on your bars, while at the same time letting you have both or all 3 curses in your kit at all times, should you prefer one over the other for different situations. This is a whatever neutral change, but the more important one is the new capstone in Blight of Weakness that puts a cloud on your target, applying the active curse in AoE for 12 seconds. This particular thing can have big implications in high and Mythic+. 12 seconds of all casts being 100% slower, auto attacks hitting twice as slow, can increase the survivability of your group or make it easier to initiate a fight, or even help diminish the lack of interrupt your group might have, if the effect is strong enough, of course. For better or worse, Affliction has so much build potential that I couldn't actually test all possibilities out in due time, especially since the alpha is pretty restricted with the gear and content that we can do. I will talk about 2 main builds, together with the hero talents that makes them stronger, whether they were changed, updated, or simply enabled the playstyles to work. This is the build that I played to test out how Soul Harvesters will now work with any shard spender since Malefic Grasp is gone, and of course, as a disclaimer, these are not something that we recommend people necessarily play play or the best builds on the alpha. It's just some playing around with the talents and picked what things made sense or were at least intuitive. Outside the cool demonic themed procs and damage increases, all of it is more or less passive outside one talent in Satael's Volition, which makes Haunt give you Nightfall. This is what I mentioned, works really well with Nocturnal Yield that gives Seed of Corruption the possibility of consuming Nightfall. In AoE, you can cast Haunt into an immediate, instant and free Seed of Corruption for faster AoE dotting, giving you more time to apply Agony afterwards. This simple gameplay change makes Soul Harvester smoother to play in AoE. For Hellcaller, I focused on this build for even more seed spamming since Malevolence gives me the haste I need to make this happen. Since it doesn't require Haunt to play, you can opt for a fresher take on Affliction. Disregarding Haunt talents and the Apex ones as a consequence gives you more freedom to take Death's Embrace for execute damage and also Fatal Echoes so that Unstable Affliction can be spread a bit more in AoE with a chance of having it reapply itself. Since I wasn't maxed out on talents and I would have one more to spend if I was level 90, I could either put it into Malefic Grasp for more boss damage or Cloying Power for an AoE spread of Unstable Affliction to gain that extra damage buff. Once again, I'm not saying that these are the builds to play or the best builds. We actually need proper math to figure those out. But I am pointing out how many options we seem to have to deal with different types of encounters based on what tools the talents will give us so far, which is a great thing for DPS specs to have. All in all, Affliction looks to be in a great spot for players that want a bit more complexity in Midnight with all of the class pruning, which I'm not saying this spec has the depth of live specs we have now in War Within, but it does seem to want to reward thought and strategic talent building if these are tuned in a way where we won't end up with a cookie cutter build for all scenarios. That doesn't mean Affliction is difficult in any manner and still can be accessible for all manner of players. If you are, however, interested in a complex spec that has been massively simplified, you can check our Arcane video right here where we go over the changes and what it looks like in the new expansion, since I'm still surprised Affliction managed to still retain some depth while Arcane looks like a much easier spec overall.